Good morning, good morning, good morning, my friend. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. Happy Monday. Let's get settled in. Good morning, Anne. Good morning, friends. What is going on? Happy Monday. How the heck are we this fine Monday morning? Drop me a note in the comments. Let me know you are here. If you are watching over on mikecameron.ca/live, I am over there chatting away as well. Drop me a note. Let me know where you are watching, whether that's LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We're everywhere. We are everywhere. In fact, I am going to go make sure I've got us pulled up everywhere I need to be pulled up so I can see all of your comments. All right. Yes, and yes, I am. I can see it. I can see it. We'll have to get that figured out. Anne is struggling with the mikecameron.ca/live page, but I'm there. I can assure you I am there. I can see it. It should say live now up on the top. I could share it with you, but I think it would kind of go over and over and over. So I'm just going to ramble for a minute as everybody gets settled in. Again, drop me a note in the comments. Let me know you are here. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about wellness matters, leading with wellness and why it matters. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It has been really interesting, and I'm going to give you 5 recommendations. Hey, good morning, Mark. 5 recommendations from the Canadian Association of Mental Health when it comes to leading with wellness. It's really been fascinating for me. I have been speaking on the impact that emotion has on human behavior for a very long time in the context of sales and leadership, over 20 years. And I don't know that I would have ever equated what I taught with mental health. But the more I sort of moved down this road with the impact that the conversations that I'm having, the messages that I'm sharing, the more I realize this is absolutely a mental health conversation. And what I'm finding absolutely fascinating is the appetite for corporate to get involved when it comes to mental well-being of their staff, their leaders, their teams. It's absolutely incredible. Excuse me. And it really gets me excited. So again, if you guys know my story or part of my story, in 2015, my girlfriend was murdered by an ex-boyfriend. Hey, good morning, Garth. And I talk a lot about the root cause of that. We had a lot of conversations. I had a lot of people that wanted me to go after the justice system, which certainly let her down. But to me, that wasn't the solution. The solution was much more about getting to the root problem and how do we prevent men getting to that point in the first place. And so I really started moving down that emotional intelligence for men, that mental health for men road, and realized how critical that was. And the more I go down that path, the more I start to realize the places we can have a significant impact are in our workplaces. Like, why wouldn't we spend more time focusing on our workplace environments when it comes to mental health? And I speak specifically to men's mental health, but this really holds true for all of us. So let's talk a little bit of statistics, because I did do a little bit of digging for this one. And obviously, this is what I do for a living. I have these conversations all over the place. I have these conversations with corporate. I look to help corporations implement wellness programs, mental health programs into their organizations. because there is a significant amount of benefit. There's a significant amount of upside for corporate to pay attention to this. Let's face it. So statistics tell us that 1 in 5 Canadians will suffer from some type of mental health issue in their lifetime. And if we do the math, most of us work 8 hours a day in our regular job, Monday to Friday. So that is half of our waking life, Monday to Friday, that we spend in a work environment, that we spend in a workplace. So doesn't it make sense that if we are going to focus on putting together strategies, tips, tricks, techniques in order to maintain and in fact foster healthy mental well-being, why wouldn't we start with corporate? That is absolutely the place to do it. So again, I'm going to share a few sort of statistics. I've got some data from the Canadian Association of Mental Health that I want to touch on and why this is important and why you should care. And if you're a leader of an organization or a leader within an organization, why this matters to you. So they talk about why should employers support mental health in the workplace? Absenteeism. Again, there are all kinds of statistics to back up the fact that when we don't feel well mentally, we don't show up for work. So there's absenteeism, there's presenteeism. So even when we do show up for work sometimes, if we're not engaged, we're not connected. Hey, good morning, Debs. How are you? When we do show up for work, if it's not about being absent, maybe it's about a lack of presence. Sometimes we show up for work when we don't feel our best, and we do that because we can't afford to take a day off maybe. But that absenteeism and presenteeism absolutely is costing employers. There is no doubt. Then we can talk about retention and recruitment. When it comes to, and again, I'm going to try and find some quick stats here. I don't have them all memorized. Shame on me. Shame on me. So economic burden of mental illness in Canada is estimated to be approximately $51 billion every year. So forget about the humanitarian aspect of it. Let's just talk about the economics of it. $51 billion is the economic cost in Canada every single year. By 2041, it's estimated that the cumulative cost of poor mental health to the Canadian economy will exceed $2.5 trillion. 2.5 trillion. Okay, so let's just remove the fact that it's the right thing to do from a humanitarian standpoint to take care of each other, to look out for our well-being. If you want to just look at the economics of it, $2.5 trillion cost. That's a lot of dough. That's a lot of dough. Absenteeism, presenteeism, retention and recruitment. In one survey, 20% of respondents said they had voluntarily left a previous job for mental health reasons, a number that increased to 50% for millennials and 75% for Gen Z employees. Losing an employee can cost an organization 1.5 to 2.5 times the cost of their annual salary. I do some work with some outplacement firms, some recruiting firms, and I've hired via recruitment firms before. They're not inexpensive. So if you have to replace an employee because their mental health suffers, or because they left you because you're not helping them take care of their mental health, the cost of that is significant. Certainly as a former business owner, well, not former, as a business owner, as somebody that's ran a large organization, I get that when we're looking at our budget and we're looking at these line items and where can we cut, especially now when times are tough, we have to be cautious with our pennies. But again, if we can spend a penny to save $1, it makes a lot of sense to do that. And what does Anne have to say? Anne says, I've had this particular discussion with my former employer who was too big for their britches and simply did not believe people could possibly have any mental health issues that would keep them from going to work. Yeah, again, I think that attitude is starting to shift. We're definitely seeing it. I think, one of the advantages, if there are any advantages that COVID is having, is it's highlighting the need for organizations to take mental health seriously, to implement strategies, to do things. Hey, Zahid, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Sorry, I've got comments all over the place. So I got 3 monitors going here. So excuse me if I'm looking all over the place. So yeah, we've talked about some of the whys, the wherefores, the challenges, the costs when it comes to mental health in the workplace. So hopefully, again, by now you can see if you're in a leadership. It's Monday. I'm having one of those mornings. If you're in a leadership position, you can certainly see the impact that this can have on your organization. It can be absolutely substantial. So some of the recommendations for business leaders, and again, this is coming out of, there was actually a report done by the Canadian Association of Mental Health in January of this year that came up with a number of recommendations for business leaders. And I thought this is just brilliant because it's sort of centralized through a central authority, some of the stuff that I've been talking about for years. So it's really nice to see this. Recommendation number 1, create an organization-wide mental health strategy. Recommendation 2, institute mandatory mental health leadership training. Again, this has to start from the top down. As leadership within our organization, we have to model the way. We have to lead by example. So putting some training in place that teaches our leadership how to effectively do this is critical, because it's not always second nature. It's not always easy to do. So having some specific strategies around how to deal with mental health in the workplace becomes incredibly critical. Recommendation 3, develop tailored mental health supports for different mental illnesses, supports for diverse identities, supports for different workplaces. I mean, let's face it, each and every one of us is a unique human being. Each and every one of our organizations have a unique culture. We need to create tailored programs, customized programs that work for you, your organization, your staff, your teams. Recommendation 4, prioritize the return to work process. Recommendation 5, measure outcomes and build accountability. So again, putting in systems in place that we can measure our progress and we can build accountability within our organizations. So that this isn't just something we pay lip service to. It's something that we actively act on. And again, coming back to that economic return, we don't need to look very far to find the business case to do this. It makes a lot of sense. So, we've talked about the problem. Again, 1 in 5 Canadians will struggle with mental health. 50% of our weekday is spent in the workplace. Many of us today are working from home, but it's still work. So those 2 facts alone should be enough for us to pay attention to mental health in the workplace. I hope we will. So I want to recognize a few of the things that I've seen recently where I've seen organizations really stepping up and doing this. And this ties in with the diversity and inclusion conversation that we've been having for years now. So I'm presenting at a coffee break series for PCL on Wednesday. So a large organization in the city of Edmonton. So hats off. I'm just blown away by the amount of initiative that some of these larger organizations are now doing and taking that corporate responsibility stepping into those corporate values, living those corporate values, not just espousing a bunch of words like we value openness and honesty, we value transparency. No, these are organizations that are actually living those values. They're bringing people like me and others in to have these conversations, but not only have the conversations, because if you've watched me before, it's got to be more than just having the conversations. It's about having the conversations and developing strategies that we can implement on a daily basis. Because if we only do these things once a year at our corporate retreats, that doesn't move the needle. That doesn't do what we need to do. We need to create ongoing practices within our work environments that will support this, that will allow us to move the needle, that we can really grow. Leadership, inclusion, well-being, job stress, work-life balance, they say. I call it integration. I think balance is bullshit. I don't think you can come to work and shut off your home life. I don't think you go home and shut off your work life. So I'm a big fan of integration rather than balance. That's a conversation for another time. The organization that I used to lead, Axiom Mortgage, we have Axiom Fit Club. Again, physical fitness and mental well-being are very closely interconnected. So creating an environment where your team, your staff, your employees can actively get some kind of physical exercise, encouraging that, fostering that. Some organizations have plans where they'll help, or they've got dollars set aside for fitness programs. Creating a culture of self-help, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, implementing all those things. Axiom Fit Club, that's exactly, I think the first thing we did with Axiom Fit Club was a yoga session. We've done meditation, we've done hikes, all of these kinds of things. So I'm really proud of what Axiom's done as an organization to foster that mental well-being in their team. Again, these are really high-stress environments. These high-paced, high-stress, sales-related. Robert, how are you? Robert, drop me some notes. Give me some of your best practices. Robert creates powerful play experiences at work. Play is another mechanism for mental well-being. How do we cultivate a culture of play in our workplace? That can be challenging. Robert, I'm looking to you, man. How do we create a culture of play within our workplace to provide that mental health relief support for our team? How do we create that safe space where individuals can open up and be vulnerable? Anne says, damn, I wish I'd known someone like you when I was working. I'd have driven you down to London and walked you into our president's office and told him to shut up and listen. Thank you, Anne. I appreciate that. The good news, Anne, there are so many presidents and CEOs that are listening. I'm having these conversations. I've got another conversation at, I think, 10 o'clock this morning, Mountain Time, with another large construction company. And they want to have this conversation. How do we support our employees through their mental health journey? Again, it's harder than ever these days. Hey, Adam, how you doing, brother? Adam says, I just watched 2 minutes. Great stuff. I will call my staff and ask how they're doing during these times. I will also look into some mental health training. You're right. It's got to come top down. Peace. Nice, Adam. Yeah, one of my favorite words that you can add to how you doing is really. So add that, Adam. How are you doing, Anne? Really. Let them know you really want to know. Create that safe space where we can do that. Outstanding, Anne says. Include the fact that it's cheaper to pay a salary than disability income. This is true. This is true. Yeah, that's one of the statistics. They talk about mental illness is a leading cause of disability in Canada. And again, there's there's references to all of the research that goes with this. I don't need to get into that. This is a paper put out by the Canadian Association of Mental Health. I trust they know what they're doing. They've done their research. Anyways, my friend, food for thought. Deb, what does Deb have to say? I've been off for over 2 years, work for TELUS. There needs to be a program that can be implemented in the corporate environment, something that is separate from the business. Robert says you can also add, you don't seem like yourself today. Yeah, that's a great one. You know, I talk about this often. Empathy when we've got an employee that's not performing at their best, you know, rather than coming down with the hammer. Hey, Robert, what's going on, man? Like, this doesn't seem like you. Is there something going on in your life? Is there something I can help you with? Showing that empathy, show that you care. Create that culture, create that environment in the workplace. Yeah, something separate from the business, Deb, absolutely. Creating that culture where we can have these conversations. And again, it's more than just having the conversations. The conversations are a start. Robert says a great website called Not Myself Today. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that, Robert. I appreciate it. Anyways, my friend, I could rant on this for days. This is what I do. If you've got questions, you want some help with your organization, reach out, let me know. Mike@mikecameron.ca. I would love to hear from you. And yeah, take a moment today to look at your coworkers, your team, your colleagues, your employers, your employees, and ask how they're doing. Deb says, this is awesome. Sorry, I'm trying to read comments here. Adam, I think you dropped another comment, but I can't see it here for some reason. Anyways, my friends, I will come back and respond to all the comments. Any comments I missed, I will have a look at all the different platforms. That's the beauty of this streaming service. I'm all over the place. All right, my friends, as always, continue to make beautiful shit happen and have yourself a great day.